Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer covering the Las Vegas Raiders and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to have you all with us tonight. If you didn't watch yesterday's podcast, where we went into depth on the Raiders' selection of a new quarterback, I really encourage you to do it. I got a lot of email today, and I'm told by my staff, but from people that were asking questions we answered in the podcast. So again, we encourage you. I know you're busy but we really don't answer questions we've already addressed. So I encourage everybody to make sure you go back and watch that podcast if you didn't. Before we get into today, this is our 26th training camp update. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about quarterback, but we're going to talk about some other positions as well. Before we get to those, I do want to address one thing to all of our members of this channel. Thank you for being a member. I greatly appreciate it. There's a new member only video that just popped up yesterday. Please make sure you watch it and follow it. We have something special coming for the members. We're not taking anything away from you people who watch this every single day. Nothing's changing. Doing a podcast every day, nothing at all. Just for our members, we have something special we want to do. I think it's $4.99 a month to be a member. And but we have something really special in store for them 24 times a year, twice a month, all year round. Excited to talk to you guys who are members, and it's going to be a really good thing. So please make sure you check it out and follow the directions. All right, I want to reiterate, we're not going to go back over stuff real estate we've already covered, but we're moving on. Got a ton of email, more email in the last 24 hours than at any time in our history. And I want to thank all of you for reaching out. Again, anything we covered yesterday, we're not going to respond to it. That's what we have the podcast for. But several of them fit into several of the same theme. And so when you get that, you know Raider Nation is thinking the same thing. We're going to address it tonight. The biggest email I got was people, and one guy summed it up. I smell a Mark Davis in the quarterback decision. I can tell you with 100% factuality, 100% facts, Mark Davis was made aware of the decision. Mark Davis did not make the decision. He is letting his football people do their job. Now, some people would want the owner to be involved, and I'll tell you why. Because then if it fails, they can say, oh, yeah, but the owner, you did it too. No, he is letting his football people lead football. Then he's going to absolutely hold them to an account. I have an article coming before the season that whatever you do, if you only read one article I write a year, you have to read this article on Mark Davis. I think he's the most misunderstood person in Raider Nation. And now that I've gotten to know him, and I do know him, and consider us to be friends, or certainly be friendly, I would say friends. I have a great respect for how he leads this team and how he does things behind the scenes, letting football people be football people. And I'm going to tell you this. I am more convinced than ever. Now, I did not know Al Davis. I met him a few times, but I didn't know him. Obviously, I'm close to Matt Millen, so that gave me a perspective on Al. And in meeting him a few times, I certainly got a perspective on Al. And people who I know, trust, many of them love, gave me a great perspective on Al and Mark Davis. I am more convinced that at no time in Mark Davis's life, and certainly not as an owner, has the fire to win burned in his belly as much as it does right now. I can tell you, Raider Nation, that unequivocally. Unequivocally. That is one thing that you need to take to your tonight when you put on your Raiders underoos and go to bed. You can know I have an owner of my team who is more committed than anyone to winning. It's pretty phenomenal, and it's very impressive if you want to know the truth. And so certainly, I've told you before, Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce have done a great job of keeping him informed. I believe there's people who are no longer here in more than one regime, by the way, since he has become the owner, that didn't keep him in the loop. But I think Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco are brilliant in this. They keep Mark in the loop. He knows what's going on with his team. They don't treat him like, he's a nuisance, and he shouldn't be. It's his team. I have a lot of admiration for him. He hires football people and lets them do their job until he's convinced that they can't do it. And so this was not a decision made by Mark Davis. He let his football people make up their mind. And consequently, they own it. Now, I wrote an article today that if you didn't read, I greatly encourage you going back and reading it. If you follow me on Instagram or X, or you're part of our Facebook page. If you're not part of our Facebook page, you need to make sure you like that today. It's Las Vegas Raiders Insider with Hondo Carpenter. The article was posted there. You need to read it, about 10 facts after 4 weeks of camp that we know about the Raiders. And so Mark Davis, his fire burns to win. When people say, oh, he doesn't care, you have no clue what you're talking about. Clueless. Now, have I agreed with every decision he's made? No, I haven't. But I have never questioned his integrity. I've never questioned his character, and I've never questioned his will to win. And I'm telling you, more than ever, coming out of this training camp, I am more convinced than ever there's nobody on this team, including AP, who I think wants to win as much, but there's nobody that wants to win more. Nobody. And I think that's vital. But Mark doesn't meddle. And when I say meddle, he's the owner. It's not like it's meddling. But he doesn't try to be the football guy. And it's admirable. So we know that this decision was made by Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, and Luke Getsy. Okay, factual. That's their decision. I've had people say to me, do you think they look at the defenses, Khalil Mack and Bosa? Then you go to Baltimore, and you got Cleveland. Do you think they're looking at that? Maybe that's why they went with Gardner. Great question. Let's go back and address this. I told you all offseason, a tie went to Aiden. Okay? That Gardner had to beat him. Coming into camp, Gardner had the interceptions and struggled. There were days that he looked better, but he had the turnovers. And so you give it to Antonio. When we left Costa Mesa, my exact reporting to you was it's a dead heat. It's dead even. Came out of Minnesota, and it was pretty close, pretty dead heat. Then you come into last week in camp, Aiden had some interceptions. Then you get into the game, and that interception, that pick six, was brutal for Aiden. So when the game was over, the general consensus was probably Aiden was going to get the job. But after the interception, it was then, who knows? It was that close. There are several things that went into this decision. It wasn't just the last interception by Aiden. That was not it. But you got to go back and you have to look at several things. The turnovers were big. And even though Gardner takes a lot of risks, and I'm gonna give you a couple of examples of those. You saw the other night against Dallas. He's rolling. I believe he was rolling to his right. Nothing there. So he turns and goes to his left. Somebody's in his face. Just should have thrown the ball out of bounds. Instead, he tries to make a throw. Nobody catches it, but it could have been picked off. Now, that's okay if you get away with it. Mike Holmgren once told me this story. The legendary coach, obviously, of Seattle and Green Bay. But with Brett Favre, a ball would be thrown and you'd be so mad. And then, oh, yeah, great throw, great throw. And then next one, a great throw, great throw. Oh, bad throw. That's living with a gunslinger. Okay. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to just be as blunt with you as I know how. There are things that Gardner offers that Aiden does not, or I think it's more fair to say heretofore has not shown. In camp, Aiden showed some good feet. He does not show the mobility or the ability to scoot like Minshew at all. He's definitely shown the ability to run, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. Hasn't had to show it in a game, but it's the reality of where Aiden is. I think that they love that about Gardner, but man, they don't like the risk taking and the gunslinging, and they're trying to work that out of his game. Here's the problem. And I'm simply being a reporter and offering analysis, which is to look at the cucumber from every side. If you start to change how he plays, do you then change him? Fascinating. Now, I don't think he's Patrick Mahomes, but when Patrick Mahomes came into the league, he did a lot of things like Gardner. Andy Reid has now turned him into the best quarterback, bar none, in the league. And he is one of the most patient, and he stays in the pocket. He'll move, but he doesn't do the Gardner stuff. Okay. So there's a risk if you're going to change Minshew. Are you able to change him? And if you do, then does he lose the things you like? Or is he able to adapt and still offer you that? That's out there. So when people say we've seen Gardner Minshew's ceiling, no, I don't think you have. You know what he's done on 3 teams who all decided to move on from him and go with younger quarterbacks. That's a fair criticism. But this staff is going to try to mold him a little bit. So I think that's fair. It's completely fair. And the other thing that you want to remember is this. They're not married to Gardner. I know they said, well, he's our guy, we're moving forward. I am also telling you that Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce are very aware they are on a franchise where the owner's mantra is win now. Period. I shared with you, and I was told this by people within the organization at the beginning of the offseason. They were not going to trade Davante because that would have been a sign of rebuilding. And they didn't trade him. They're not rebuilding. So when you are in a mantra of win now, I totally believe that Gardner's going to get 4 or 5 games. And if he starts 1-4, 1-3, whatever, there is going to be a short leash, regardless of what's said, to pull the trigger and go with Aiden O'Connell. This franchise is win now. Absolute 110% win now. Period. Period. And so he's their guy. I think he gets a minimum of 4 games. I mean, unless he just completely stinks it up, but I think he gets a minimum of 4 games. And we wait and see what happens. Now, I laughed because I got an email from somebody and they work in a field that I would have thought they would have not assumed. I've never shared with you what I think because my opinion doesn't matter. And I have only shared with you what I was hearing from the inside. And that's all I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to share with you what I'm hearing on the inside. I do not believe this was a coronation. Okay. Woo. Gardner, you're the quarterback forever. No. I think it's Gardner, you're the quarterback. You got some time to get this team going, but you better get it going. I 100% believe that. I believe there's a lot of people that feel that way. And We're going to see. And here's the advantage. If Gardner works out, you're in great shape. You still have a very young Aiden O'Connell with a very favorable team contract to continue to develop. If Gardner fails, then you have Aiden to come in after those first few miserable, tough defenses, and you give him a shot. And if he works out, great. You've got Gardner, a proven backup, under a good, favorable deal for next year. If both fail, it's easy to move on from Gardner. You can go draft a rookie and sign a veteran. So I said to you before the year, and I stand by it. And people say, you said this. I've never run from what I say. Their belief was go make the team better. We don't know what we have in Aiden, but we've seen enough to be encouraged. And oh, by the way, I want to make this statement. They are not discouraged with Aiden O'Connell. I saw a lot of people saying, oh man, they've given up on Aiden. You're nuts. I know for a fact they haven't. Not getting the first 4 games is not going to ruin Aiden. It's just not going to happen. And I'm going to address him and Minshew in a minute. So they're in a good spot. Getting Brock Bowers was a major addition for this team. And if they have to go next year and sign a veteran, that veteran's going to be thrilled when he looks at all the weapons that this team has. DJ Turner, Trey Tucker. I mean, 2 phenomenal players right there. Jalen. I mean, that right there is amazing. Let's just start at the top. You got Devontae and Jacoby, Trey Tucker, DJ Turner, Christian Wilkerson, and Jalen. Your 6 wide receivers are all incredibly talented men. The 2 number 1 tight ends from the last 2 drafts. You got a workhorse in Zamir White. You've got the great left tackle, which you have to have in Colton Miller. So this is a Raider team that's very favorable for a top free agent to be interested in if both of these quarterbacks fail, and yet the Raiders still get a year to improve. None of us thought this was a Super Bowl team who is reasonable. So at least that is a plan of action, and I think it's a plan that's fair. If Aiden would have got the job, I would have said to you the same thing. This team's in a win-now mode. He's got to go out and do it. So if Gardner goes first and he does it, everybody should be happy. And if he goes out and does it, then you've got Aiden. And if it doesn't work with there, then everyone can say, okay, we've got a better franchise today than we had last year, and now we got to go get that quarterback. And oh, by the way, there's going to be some quarterbacks available. There's a guy playing in New York right now for the Jets, Jets, that could very well be available next year. You don't think he's sitting there looking at the Raider defense and the Raider offense and all of it? Luke Getsy, who he's already worked with, that would be a great option. There's a lot of other ones. He's not the only one. But my point is, you then have a team together that you know what you can do with. I know a lot of people seem to act like the sky was falling yesterday. And I'm sorry. I don't think either quarterback differentiated themselves enough to act like the sky is falling. I think they made a calculated decision, and it was their decision, and they made it, and they own it. Now, got a ton of email from people asking me, is there danger of this splitting the locker room? I want to go back, and you can go back and look at the videos or read the articles. I have reported all offseason how phenomenal Gardner and Aiden have become friends. It is not often in the National Football League where you see people who compete against each other for a job that are close and each other's biggest cheerleader. To their credit, I want to make this abundantly clear. This locker room isn't divided because those men weren't divided. And let me explain. Aiden is a great guy, and his teammates love him. They don't like him. They love him. Gardner comes in and endeared himself to Aiden. And I had more than one player say it was really cool to see how Aiden took to him. So it was just kind of easy for us. Aiden's embracing of Gardner put the entire team at ease. At ease. That's a monster deal. That is a very, very big deal. And so Aiden's leadership created an atmosphere that if Gardner had won it, which he did, Aiden wasn't going to pout. If Aiden won it, Gardner wasn't going to pout. And the team's entire answer was just win. Max Crosby, we were in the locker room the other day. I don't remember what day it is, but I put the video up. And I said to him, I'm not going to ask you to name who you think. And I wouldn't do that. He's my friend. And even if he wasn't my friend, I wouldn't have asked a player to do that. But I said, do you as a captain, you're a human, you have an opinion. Do you go voice that? And he said he wouldn't. And I believe him, by the way. Why? Because for those of you concerned about this splitting the rock world, the quarterback unity and relationship made it comfortable for everybody in the locker room. I'm going to explain it to you this way. I had a player say this to me today, and I thought it was really, really good. You ever had a friend, you're friends with a couple, and they get divorced, and you're like, do I have to stay friends with the husband, or can I stay friends with the wife? The best couples are like, stay friends with both. Was this a divorce? I don't think it was a divorce, but you're certainly picking one over the other. But Gardner and Aiden made it safe. I hate that word because but they made it comfortable for everyone to say, hey, we're Raiders. That is this team. I've been telling you all training camp to watch the defense when the offense did something, cheer them on. To watch offensive guys help defense and defense help offense. You should see Max Crosby talk to Thayer Mumford and to talk to Glaze and again, to watch Jacoby help young receivers, to watch Epps. It's just pretty cool. Jack Jones helping out guys. This team is so united that in credit, Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, those two came in and melded together very quickly. And so it wasn't a, hey, we're mad the Champ didn't get the job. No, everybody, Telesco and Champ. I can tell you this, Tom Telesco has been an absolute blessing to the Raiders. The way he drafted, the way he signed free agents, every free agent I talked to, and I talked to most of them, even some who signed with other teams, praised Tom Telesco. And hey, this is what we think you're worth. And going back to Andre James, you know what? We've now redone our research after the season, see where the market's gone. We feel like we offered you under money, whatever, and come back and sign people. So again, from Telesco with Champ, Telesco with AP, AP with Telesco, AP with the team, Gardner with Aiden, there is zero concern of this roster being divided now. And I'll get into this in a minute. Trying to lay it all out for you. This team is committed to just winning. Now, if it's clear after 4, 5, 6, 7 games and the Raiders are just failing and they're just being belligerent and sticking with Gardner, which I do not believe is the case or what will happen, I have no idea how he's going to do. But I'm saying if it's clear that Gardner's not working and they're not making a move, then I think you would have issues. I wrote about it and I talked about it. You're going to have a QB controversy because as much as Mark Davis wants to win, this fan base is tired of it. They've had enough of it. I wish you all could read all the emails I get from people. Been a fan since 73, been a fan since 65, been a fan for 12. I had one guy today say to me, I've never seen the Raiders in a playoff. With a playoff win, excuse me. Obviously, I mean, wow, okay. But I'll have dads email me and say, man, my kids have never seen us even win a playoff game, and I'm trying to get them to be Raider fans. I get all that. And I'm telling you, your owner gets it and your head coach gets it and Telesco gets it. So I think the only way there's a controversy if they just put their head in the sand and ignore the obvious once it becomes obvious, if it does. Okay? If Gardner's doing good, let's say they start 2-3 and Gardner's playing well. Let's say the defense is the one that struggles. I know that's hard for people to comprehend, but let's just, for the sake of this argument, say it. There's no controversy at quarterback. This team knows if they're playing well, and so does Raider Nation. The controversy is if he's not playing well and then they don't make a move, which I fully would expect them to do. And I think that's the common thought process. So there's your team. There's no controversy. There isn't a lot of hand wrangling. Were there some people surprised? There were, but nobody angry, mad. And again, the way those two handled it, tremendous job on their part. Now, I want to get to Luke Getsy, and then I'm going to talk about the defense and a couple more things before we let you go tonight. I understand, and it's totally fair when you've watched the first two preseason games to think, ugh, this offense. Okay? I think it's, yeah. But there's been a lot of new wrinkles in there that I really like, and I've talked a lot about them. Now, when they call them, they have to be executed, but they have kept this offense completely vanilla outside of putting Brock Bowers at fullback once. Maybe it was twice. I don't remember now. It was at the Minnesota game. He didn't play in the last one. So if I'm you, I would go back and look at everything that Getsy did before Chicago. He was a very hot commodity. A lot of people thought this guy's going to be the next young, hot, offensive-minded coach in the NFL. Very much well-respected. He goes to Chicago, where he utterly failed. You can't deny that. That's just facts. But you can ascertain he had a boss. Now, he has a boss here, but they're letting him institute that offense that he ran in Green Bay and put some other wrinkles and stuff he wants to do. This is his offense. He owns it. And he's got weapons. I don't think it's fair when they're not using the running game that much in preseason. I wonder why. I think it's unfair to just talk about fire him now. He's still terrible. No, I don't think that's being fair. And I want to say something because most of Raider Nation wanted Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce wanted Luke Getsy. So if you trusted him, trust him now. He's earned that. I said, he's earned that. You let him do his thing, work it out. But you're allowed to think anything you want. But I'm just telling you, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised when they get to LA. Maybe you won't. Maybe they're going to get there and all these things that we saw just don't materialize and the team doesn't execute. Okay? Then you have every right to be ticked off. But I'm telling you, based on what I have seen, it's really unique. Talking to players privately, because I'm not going to talk to them on the record about things that's different. That wouldn't be fair to the Raiders, nor professional of me. I think there's a lot of excitement about what they're going to do. So I would just say to you, I am not concerned. No, I'm not a fan, but as an analyst, I would want to give you the most straightforward information. I am not in the least bit concerned about Luke Getsy's offense and the weapons he has to run it. Now, expect Colton back. I was told in training camp, if it had been game week, he would have played. So would I be concerned if Colton wasn't back? Absolutely. Then I would be concerned. But I am not concerned But then there's also the possibility if he didn't come back, and I think he will. So I guess there's no even reason to get into this. But you could move Thayer to left, put DJ at right. Whatever. The point of the matter is, I like this Luke Getsy offense. I like the look of it. I like the newness of it. And I think you should be encouraged. Again, as far as the quarterback decision, the team is not split. The team is not divided. And credit goes to how everyone in this organization has handled it. From the moment they picked Telesco over Champ Kelly, the way every single person has handled jubilation and disappointment this offseason has been with one theme: team, team, team. I think if you're a Raider, that should encourage you. That has, in the 5 years I've covered this team, that has not always been them. It is the team now. And everybody is on one page, just win. I'll tell you right now, if Gardner goes out and kills it and the Raiders start hot, he's going to have no bigger cheerleader than Aiden. And I can guarantee you, if he doesn't start out hot, he's going to be disappointed. And if they go with Aiden, Gardner Minshew is going to be his biggest cheerleader. And say, so will the players. So there you go with there. Now, I want to talk about a few things that I think are important. Tomorrow night, or depending when you're watching it, it could be tonight, Wednesday. The Raiders are going to have an open practice at Allegiant again, which I think is fantastic. Going to be a great practice. And then, I got to look. I am so messed. Okay, no. Yeah, tomorrow's the practice on Tuesday. Then Wednesday's evening is a practice at the facility. And then we come back on Friday with the game against the San Francisco 49ers, of which the starters are not going to play. I encourage you greatly to get out to practice if you can. It's going to be the last time before the season starts to see your starters. Obviously, Raider Nation is all around the country. I heard about a couple that's flying in for practice tomorrow night because they can't afford to go to Allegiant to a game, but they're coming to practice, which is a great practice because you're going to see the starters. If you were coming to the 49er game, you wouldn't even see the starters. So I think that's a great thing. I thought it was, now let's move to a different subject that I want to get to that I think is very important. I talked to you about Luke Getsy, was considered one of the fastest rising offensive stars, goes to Chicago, it fails, but he had a boss. Then you got Tom Telesco, who I told you at the time that he got hired, he would never, ever say an ill word about the Chargers ownership. That's not how Tom Telesco rolls. He is a man of great integrity. I'll tell you something that I love about Tom Telesco is if he tells you something, that's what it is. I can tell you, well, we'll just leave it there. I think that's an honorable thing about him. But the Chargers went all in last year to win, and it failed, and they were in a lot of salary cap trouble this year. I would venture to guess Tom had a plan to get them out of it, so he would probably disagree with us saying they were in salary cap hell. But that's my opinion. That was the opinion of a lot of people in the NFL, and I'm going to stand by that. But sometimes teams put all their chips in the middle of their table saying, let's make a run. A very bad hire of the head coach that they had, terrible hire. And so he's in a position now where if he fails with the Raiders, he's not going to get another opportunity. That won't happen. And Getsy won't get another chance at a coordinator job if he fails here. And Antonio Pierce, I think he would get another shot at a coaching job, but not a head coaching job, and then have to work his way up through the ranks. But I don't think his head coaching career would be over. I just think it would be greatly delayed. And these three men are putting their career on the line to lead this team in the direction that they go. And my father said it to me years ago, and it's 100% true. When you're gauging a decision, look at the person who had the most to lose. Look at them. Who had the most to lose? And the three men that had the most to lose put their chips in the middle of the table and says, let's start with Gardner. I think that says something. I think it says something. Now, I want to talk to you very quickly about another issue that I think is going to be fascinating. With the Raiders starting on the road, you know there's going to be a huge Raider crowd in LA. It's going to be mammoth in LA. So Raider Nation will show up and show out for that. Then you go to Baltimore. And I know a bunch of Raider fans on the East Coast. I hope everybody makes the trip to Baltimore, grabs a couple of crab cakes and heads over to the stadium. But Raider Nation will be represented there. And then it is important for this team, though, to get a fast start. It's just brutally important. Absolutely brutally important. The Raiders are in a must-win now motive. That's their mindset. And so I already had them. I said beginning of the year, I think they win in LA and lose in Baltimore. I stand by that. That is what I believe. But those next two games are going to be critical. Looking for this team to get a fast start, get something to hang their hat on. And I have said this many times. I've heard a lot of people, including the other night at the Dallas game, big crowd of Cowboy fans there. Raider Nation will show up and they'll show out, but the team has to as well. They have to. I think if the Raiders can get a fast start, let's say they're 1-1, they go to LA and beat the Bolts. Then they go out to Baltimore and lose. There's no shame in that loss. Then they come home. I think you're going to see Raider fans excited about this team. Then they get up above 500 and they're in the hunt for something. This Raider Nation's going to show up now. They're going to be there. They're going to support their team. I talked with several people over the last couple of days who are fans, trying to gauge fan reaction, who are like, I haven't sold my tickets. I have all the time in the past. Haven't sold them yet. I'm going to wait and see. Are they giving me a reason to go to the stadium? I met a bunch of season ticket holders in California. And it was interesting. Hey, do you go up to every game? Well, yeah, but unless they start losing, then I just get my money back. Okay, I get that. I understand it. So everybody in this franchise is on the same page. It's win now. Period. Nothing else. That is the whole mentality. And everyone is behind that. And I want you to picture Mark Davis waving a flag that says just win, baby, because that's the direction of this franchise. Just win, baby. That's their motto. That's the direction. The only thing they're married to right now is winning. You saw them. Cost tens of millions of dollars to get rid of Josh McDaniels. Just win. That's their only motto. Your franchise is heading in that direction. I don't think anything that happened yesterday is a sky is falling scenario. I think this team is still marching forward. You have good people, good football people, and there's not one person. Look at Telesco. He's been a great drafter and accumulator of some talent. Has he been Bobby Beathard? No. But there's one Bobby Beathard. Has he been Ron Wolf? No. But he's been good, better than average. Some of his down drafts have struggled a little bit, some. But everybody has down drafts that don't work, meaning down in the lower rounds. This draft was phenomenal. And I know we don't judge it for till after their third year, but this draft was really super good. So was last year. I know that wasn't his, but so two solid drafts. But the point is, you have some reason in the GM chair to be encouraged with Tom Telesco. Luke Getsy has had success, not as a coordinator, but as an offensive mind. AP had success last year as a head coach. My point to you is this: sometimes you have to live in a realm with, well, if this guy can do it, if that guy can do it, great. You have two quarterbacks that have won in this league. You have three men leading your two men in Telesco and Pierce leading your organization who have done things in the NFL that you're not just hoping with what in the business world they call blue sky, meaning it's just hope, but nothing tangibly attached to it. You're being asked to believe that the people in positions of leadership can do it, and they've done it. I think that's important. So there you go. Tomorrow, practice at the stadium. I'll have my 27th camp update after practice with a lot of information from there. Wednesday, practice at the facility. I'll have a bunch of information for you there. I got a lot of good stuff coming on Thursday. You just have to wait and find out why. And then Friday, the last preseason game. Going to be a big one. Going to be a good one because we're going to see a lot of young players. I appreciate all of you. I'm grateful for you. I encourage all of you who are members to watch that video. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow.